Okay, welcome. We're gonna get started. Don't mind my lungs are like tightening up again, so I don't know what's going on, but we are just gonna work until we drop. So, okay, let me start the recording. And we are just gonna kind of start down the list. We didn't have a ton of questions today, but we have a ton of questions today, but we're going to pull them up right now. Okay, let's see. What is going on? Oh, the people ask questions on different spots. One sec, I'm gonna have to pull up two different spots. Okay, so we'll start with Cassie's since she is on. So Cassie, if you can unmute yourself. I know you were kind of saying you were going to talk about it while you were on, but also you wrote about it. Kind of tell me like what emotional shifts you're kind of having right now with imposter syndrome.
It just feels weird. Like there were so many people that told me that I couldn't hit the goals that I'm hitting. And now it's like, I don't know. Now I never really thought past this point. So now that like fear is creeping in.
I love it. So this is really, really common when your dreams start to become like, or your reality starts to become more than what you ever dreamed, right? So this is a good point for you to really sit down and start to evaluate, like, what is the next vision? What is the next thing, right? Because a lot of times when we're going off of feeling and things are flowing really, really fast and as fast as they have for you, what starts to happen is like, you almost kind of feel that scramble again of like, well, I don't really feel in alignment, but I do, but I don't really know what I'm doing. And you're just kind of like keeping up with everything. So I would say is your next step is getting really clear on what are your next measurable goals, and not just money oriented, but like vision oriented too, right? And so if we look at like your next year or let's say the rest of this year, what are all the things you want to accomplish the rest of this year?
So that's where I'm stuck and I know this is being live streamed. I don't really care. I have like crappy credit. So I have like the income of a person that's doing stuff, but I can't get anybody to give me a chance on like getting a loan or a space or anything. And that's always been something that's like stopped me. And I don't see the way past it. That's what it's
so
like.
When you go to get a loan or things like that, are you going to like private lenders? Are you going to banks? Are you going to credit unions? Like, where are you trying?
I've kind of tried all over the place. The last one was like a credit union, and they said like I just have a lot of hospital bills and stuff from when I was younger, and that haunts me. And and they didn't really even give me advice. These people were so rude. The last time I was there, I was with my husband and he's Hispanic. And the guy started explaining to me how like in the US, we use credit here. Like I wasn't even like a white person. It was just like the most like demeaning thing. And it kind of set me back on feeling like I could actually keep going.
So I'm going to connect you with someone, and not that it's going to be somebody that maybe can help you immediately, but I've sent a lot of people there that it's like they make good money, they have good income, but at the same time, they need like a plan to figure out like, how do we move to the next thing, right? So when we moved to Vegas, right, like we like tripled our income. And when we came back, we couldn't buy a house for like 4 years because it's either write-offs or income, right? And so we had to really find like a bank that, number one, they did in-house lending. They didn't have to go through underwriters and all this stuff. They literally like went right next door. And also we worked with a bank to kind of really create a strategy to move forward. Because I'm with you, right? It's like, okay, I don't get why I have to have credit if like, if I can pay everything, right?
Yeah, that's what I was like. I only came in because I figured income would be part of it, like a little bit of a consideration.
Yeah. So let's not give up. Let's find a solution. And it's okay to go to like person after person after person until we find that solution that you're particularly looking for with that. So I'm going to connect you with a few people that have worked for me and that I personally know. So I know they're not going to be a-holes to you. And they've helped other people before too, just to get that ball moving into the right direction. Right.
Yeah.
And so that's goal number one, credit, or like a goal of like loan, being able to invest, things like that, because also business credit is going to be different than personal credit too. So it might be, can you just build up your business credit? Right.
Yeah.
And so figuring that out as well too. So what other goals do you have?
And hiring people.
Okay. What is your block with that?
It's mostly the same. It would be nice to have like a little bit of a nest egg or something, that if there was a slow point, that there would be money there to like cover it. Because right now I'm just paying everything like as I go. And it's a little bit overwhelming to think that like, if for all of a sudden I couldn't work for 2 weeks, like I still have to pay those people. And I don't want to put myself in debt over that.
Why do you have to still pay them?
Because like, well, I don't know. I guess I've never had like, this is bigger business issues than I've ever had to deal with before. Like if you just suddenly had to shut down for a month for like medical reasons or something, like, would you still pay your assistants, or do they just need to?
So here's what I would say. Totally up to you, right?
Yeah.
You own the business. So you're in this mindset of like, you're still in scarcity and making money decisions, but then like, you're also playing like big girl CEO like pants.
Yeah.
But here's the thing, you won't be able, and I shouldn't say won't, but I'm going to speak pretty boldly because we're like the same people in one. You won't be able to make money without hiring somebody.
Yeah.
But the problem is you want to have a nest egg to be able to hire someone. Well, the problem is the second you get a nest egg, I guarantee you something's going to happen that's going to take from that nest egg, because it's not really that you need more money in a nest egg. It's that you're making those scarcity decisions. But if you think about it, hiring an assistant, you maybe need $200 a month to hire an assistant. That isn't that much for how much you're bringing in and how much you have going on. Well, I think
the thing is, I actually do have money in the bank. Like I hit like, for my first time ever, like I've literally never seen $5,000 in a bank account that has my name in it. And today, like I got that points. So there is money. It's just like, but now it's like,
you're not believing your reality. You're going through like a mind F right now.
Yes.
And this is totally normal. And it's because you're getting ready to jump and you're stuck, but the growth is in the risk and the next thing. And that scares you.
Yeah.
And so we really have to, and I think we'll do this in like our like personal sessions too. I think the issue is the way you move money in and out of your life. Because even just hearing you say, and by the way, I can guarantee you almost everybody does this. So it's not just you. And I think this will benefit a lot of people. It is not a good idea to move money of like, oh, money comes in and now a bill came in. I'm going to pay this. I'm going to pay this. I'm going to pay this. As money comes in, you're also moving it as it comes out with no plan. Right. And I don't believe necessarily in a budget, but you have to have a plan. And so that a plan is going to make you feel really safe, but also with like whatever medical bills or things like that. Right. We've got to really figure out like how, like, it's almost like you're in this hoarding stage of money because you've never had it. So you're like, save. Right. And I think that, and let's go through this more on a personal level so we don't have to divulge all of your like financial stuff, but I would really like to go through and see how can we rearrange the energy flow of how money is moving in and out throughout your business. Because then what starts to happen is you'll get at the end of the year and all of a sudden you're like, well, now I owe taxes. Well, I'm just going to pull it from this $5,000 that's in my account. Like there's just no plan. And so you run out of money very quickly, or you get in scarcity mode because everything's coming from this one bank account, this one chunk, right? Like I have like 4 different bank accounts, right? And some I don't even know the like how to even get into them because there's a reason for that. So I don't know how to get into them, right? Like I forget the pins, I never write them down, I don't use it. And so we've just got to rearrange the way that you work money, and it's going to up your money energy flow to just the next level of skill set. You were never taught how to manage money, and you probably grew up with poor money mindset, right? And just this is what we have, or this is what we do, and this is how we just aren't trained on how to do these things. And so you're actually at a higher level problem, which I love that you're asking this, because I've actually had this talk with McKendry before too, right? I'm like, this needs to pay for like the products, this needs to pay for this needs to pay for taxes. Because when we just start taking from what comes in and out, you're going to always feel like you don't have enough, because even though you have 5,000 in your bank account, and you probably could quickly spend that 5,000 for the amount of things you need going out too.
Yeah.
Plus then you're like, well, then do I take a payout? Do I not? What do I do? Like, and so we have to have a payout plan too. Like how much profit are you taking? How much, things like that. So for what I would say is your next goal is credit and your next goal is hiring. What I want you to really think about is you just don't know how. So let's focus on that the next time we chat and really go in depth with your your personal stuff. Because I think for you, it's the lack of clarity because you don't know what you don't know. Yeah. And that's going to help.
I feel these people with money and they're like investing and doing all this stuff. And I feel like I should be doing all this stuff, but I don't even know where to start with it.
Well, you're still in the growing stage too, even though you've grown so much. We need to get your business running automatically, and then you can focus on that stuff. And so you're right where you need to be. And imposter syndrome is really normal. What I think is happening is you're almost and I'd be curious about the community of people you surround yourself with too, because it's almost like you're still in this low vibe money energy mindset, but you're like making high vibe money and business decisions. And so like, I think there's a little bit that probably comes into who you're surrounding yourself with, number one. And also just the way things are moving and flowing. So go back to mindset, black journal, all of these scarcities, all of these fears, right? And then as you make a list of all of your fears, sorry, you guys, I had to like feed my animals and it like triggered my lungs so bad. But so as you black journal these, I want you to, instead of looking at it as like a black journal, do it in bullets, and then next to it be like, who has the answer to this? Who has the answer to imposter syndrome? Who can I talk to about like credit? Who can I, right? Or who knows somebody that knows somebody, right? Because when we can start getting to the right questions, we can start getting to the right answers. I don't really think it's imposter syndrome necessarily. I think what you envision your, like where you're at now, you feel like it should feel different.
Yeah.
And right. And I think it all comes back down to that movement of where money is flowing in and out. What like your debt payoff plan is, what, right? Because you're in this mix of old life problems, new life problems. Now, how do I like solve both at one time?
Yeah.
And feel like I can have a clean slate, right? Because there's stuff, like you said, that still haunts you. So we've just got to dive into a deeper plan. So we'll do that. We'll dive in. Your homework before when is our appointment?
On the 31st.
On the 31st. Okay.
31st, yeah.
I want you to get really in depth for the last 3, even 6 months, depends how much you use your bank account. And I want you to really dive in deep. How do you flow money? Where does a lot of it go? What has been kind of your profit and loss? If you can kind of categorize it, and with no judgment, right? Like no judgment if you spent it all on fast food. I don't even care.
That's exactly what I was worrying about.
Like, I don't care where it is. we just have to be realistic, right? And I'm not expecting you to like cut out fast food. I finally just recognized I spend a lot of money eating out because that's all there is to do here in Utah. So before I would like cut back on that, and I'm like, nope, it just is who I am. I'm never going to change it.
Yes.
So we eat out like every single day. So it just is what it is, right? For where we're at. But I need you to get really real of like what's coming in, what's cash in, and the more detailed you can get is like this many is from TANs, this many is from the product, right? Or and then really like how much debt do I have and what is that debt? What are the payments on that debt? I want you to get, the more you can show up with for me, the more that we can like really start to problem solve. And like I said, rid the shame of where you're at, because we all have been there and there's people there now, right?
Yeah.
And so for you, it's like, I just want to help you think differently and how you move money. And so, and then help you create a plan of how do I hire, or how do I have comfort that because I hire, I'm making more money, or I hire people that are going to bring me in more money and they're maybe commission based or versus hourly based or whatever that looks like. And so that's your homework assignment, is just give yourself grace right now, black journal the imposter syndrome and get really categorized. And the more, and then as you get things, upload it into your client file. If you don't know where that's at, ask Whitney. Upload everything, and then I can start kind of diving into that too as you upload things. Does that sound good?
That works for me.
So I know it's not like an answer, but I think it's a
start.
It's a start. It's a deeper.
And I can stop worrying about it.
Yes. And let it go and be okay and just honor where you're at right now. And you're just kind of at this weird plateau because I think you're fighting old life, new life, old life, new life. So you're right there. I think you're doing awesome. So we'll continue this. Sound good?
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Now I got to go back to where I found Mackenzie. I saw you posted questions, but then I saw they were on a different post. Oh, there they are. Okay. How to find resources to help my staff grow and learn well, and programs that help keep their sales straight without me checking or being in the back end office space where it has that info. So you, as a business owner, you will always have to babysit. Always, 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 always. So for me in particular, right, every week on Mondays, we go through what were our sales goals, how many sales were made, who sold them, how are we behind, what are the goals for this next week. So you will still always have to babysit and always have to keep people straight. But where you get to kind of really help them is incentivizing, number one, and also having them set their own goals. So at every team meeting, I'm like, okay, if this is our goal, like what is your goal towards that, right? And then you can come back and check in on them. But the problem with sales is people either get it or they don't. It has to be the quickest thing that you're willing to fire and hire around, and making sure that they have that natural gift too, right? But I would say as far as that goes, which I'm sure you already do, only have them be commission based, but then also make sure there's levels of where they can expand and grow so that they have that incentivization, I guess you could say. And then making sure they're set up with enough like things to help bring, well, so here's what I would say. It depends on, are you bringing in the leads or are they bringing in the leads, right? Like, so for my company, I'm bringing in the leads. So I have to make sure that I have 300 to 500 new leads every single month that my sales team can call, right? If not, then we have to look at, okay, who's bringing in the leads in your business and who's doing the sales of your business, because it's two totally different skill sets, right? Unless they're affiliates and they're doing some sort of influencer marketing or they're willing to do vendor boosts, then you're going to have to train them more as a business owner of, are they willing to go invest in a business booth because they can go make X, Y, Z, right? And so I guess at first would be like determine how are you wanting to run the salespeople? Like how are they making money?
So I'm adjusting my staff members and my promoters right now, because the program that I had was way too complicated. Nobody wanted to do it at all. And so I'm adjusting that, and I've just added new people. And so I have one lady that's going to go over social media that I'm hiring, so like they can understand the social media more. But my goal with them is that like they'll bring in sales, and then I'm eventually able to pay them a commission. But like I can't necessarily do that right now, just because it's like not. I guess I don't really know how to do that, but also probably partially scarcity, and then also no one quite knows how to sell on Facebook. So I'm trying to find like resources of people that can help train. Like I think I don't know if you saw the text, but I texted you the other day to see if
Oh
you
yes, I did see that. Sorry.
You're okay. It was a weekend. But like I'm just trying to find people that will help train them, and it'll help them to be able to like put back into what they're doing.
So how are they currently making money? When you say I have new people, but I can't pay them.
So they post right now, they post like my product sales, like products on their social media to sell. And then the local people, when I do vendor events and things like that, they'll be promoting that and coming and helping with that. When I do retreats, they'll be selling like.
But if the people posting the products right now, do they make money off of what they sell?
I'm giving them an incentive of like free merch, like a percentage of like the sale goes into like free merch, so they can like load up on stuff. But I want to get to the point where I'm paying them, because I feel like it's like, I don't know, a better incentive.
So what I would say is it's two totally different people, right? So the people right now that you have, I would say are loyal followers that love the product, and they're okay with how you have it going, right? When you go to actually pay people, you're going to have to hire a new set of people most likely, because they're going to want to actually make a business out of it and make money, and they're going to want to be good at sales, right? So the problem right now, honestly, is there just isn't enough skin in the game for them to get back. But I love how, so what they're going to need is lots and lots of loyalty when it comes to a good, like being able to earn merch pretty easily and pretty quickly, right? Also just that communication of being your sidekick, right? Of like making sure you're complimenting them all the time, making sure that, you know, they're going to need a lot of that validation, but more look at them as loyal followers that are willing to just share your stuff, thanking them for everything, right? Giving them maybe if you have a good month or something, giving all of them some extra cash or whatever that looks like, or a gift card to eat out, right? So right now, I would say on a scale from like 1 to 10, like how well are they doing at actually posting about it?
So the new people that we just got in, that I just made part of the team, they're doing really well. They're sharing really good. We actually had one girl that she made her first post and she sold $134 like of stuff just like immediately. It was kind of cool to see. But like I have 4 people that have been in from pretty much the beginning. They've been there for basically a year. And so they've seen like the ebbs and flows of like the growth that and whatever you want to call it, that we've had within the staff program, me trying to figure it out. So they haven't really been like diligent on posting. And I have someone that actually doesn't ever post, but he says he's word of mouth. So
awesome. So here's what I would do. Every Monday or whatever it is, right? There needs to be some sort of team meeting where you go through numbers and sales. Hey, so-and-so, here's where your numbers are at. Here's so-and-so, here's where your numbers are at. People need that accountability of like, it's kind of like in BNI, like we have like red light, green light, gray light, and like everyone's name is on the screen and you get to see this is how many referrals that you've passed, how much business you've passed, how much, right? And it's just a level of accountability. And then that gives them the ability to ask questions and to figure out where they need help. So resources, it really is going to depend on individualization of where the problem is coming from, because you can give them all the sales training in the world right now, but what if it's lead gen that's the issue? Or what if it's like they don't know how to post, right? That's the issue. So really what I would say is, as you start to put accountability and pressure on people, they're going to start getting defensive, and they're going to be like, oh, well, they're going to say stuff like, oh, well, just nobody's buying right now. Like anybody I contact just isn't buying right now, or nobody right now is, like for us, like, it might be like no one's answering their phone calls, right? And so the second you usually critique somebody, they're going to come back with something defensive, which then tells you what the real problem is, which is, okay, well, then we need to create a better script. It tells me something is happening in the voicemail that's being left or the text message that's being left, right? And so for you, instead of worrying so much about educating people right now, I think it's a little bit of putting pressure on a little bit and getting to what the root issue is for each individual person, right? And so, and also a little bit of babysitting, just so that like, if people aren't held accountable, then they don't really care to post, right? Because they're not going to be as invested into your business as you are. And so, like for me, I track every day how many calls were made, how many people answered the phone call, how many people went into the lost pile, and how many sales were made, right? And then if I see we have like 500 leads, and out of those 500, like 10 people, it's like, I got to start like really figuring out what is going on, right? And usually it's a mindset thing. I notice it's usually a mindset or a motivation thing. And so for you, what I would say is, I would more so, even though it feels like you might have to babysit a little bit, it's going to create less babysitting because it's going to create less frustration, is figuring out what day of the week can you all meet and get people involved in the culture and the community, into the give back, into like, and keeping them super hyped up about like, the mission and where things are headed. But then also telling people your clear plan, right? Not just like, oh, one day I would love to pay you. That is not very reassuring. It's like, hey, when we hit this amount, then commissions go to this much. When we hit this amount, then commissions go to this much. Because it's not that you can't actually pay them. It's just, you need to tell them how much do they have to sell before you can pay them, right? And really looking at it is that, right? Like, because a certain percentage is going to go back into reordering product, and a certain percentage is going to go into paying them. And then a certain person, I mean, like product sells at like there, most of your money is going to kind of be reinvested until you have like a year worth of supply, right? And so it's gonna take some time, but also without the people, you can't grow. So making sure that they're getting paid way before you're getting paid. My employees probably get paid way more than I do. I never take a payout. Maybe I'll take maybe 2,000 to 3,000 a month for myself. Otherwise, like everything else is like going back into the business or back into my employees for the moment being, right? Or just reinvested into other things. And so step one, I think meeting.
Okay.
Step two, accountability. Through that accountability, it will spark questions or defensiveness, right? And in those questions or defensiveness, now you know what products or resources you need to be handing out to people. And maybe if they go take a class, like they go invest in a class, and they'll maybe get X amount of like product for free per amount of class that they take, right? Because them investing in a class is now, it might still come out of your pocket a little bit, but it's benefiting you, and you're just paying whatever is at cost, right?
Yeah.
And then, yeah, same thing. Then you know what speakers to bring in, what people to bring in, what books that you could be gifting to people, because that alone would be like a thank you too, but it benefits you. And so I would say start there to start to know where the root problem is. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
Any other questions around that aspect?
No, I think that's a really good start for me with this. So.
Yeah, because you're kind of a visionary, and so sometimes you're really good at jumping to the end of the timeline. I'd say let's start here, create the timeline so that people know what to work towards. Because if they know they're working towards something, they're going to work harder to grow your business because they also want to make money, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
that's what I would say there. And then going into your other question about how to keep away from boutique vibes, talk to me about like what vibe you want versus the boutique.
Being like a hunting company, I want that feel that kind of comes with it. And I mean, you can easily become like boutique vibes just from almost doing what I'm doing right now with the new stuff, and that's like the new shirts that I'm doing. But I'm doing like Father's Day shirts, like I'm gonna have a 4th of July upload, but like I'm trying to keep it super like to us, like patriotic, hunting, faith-based, like vets, like all, like trying to keep it within that, so it's not just like a boutique, I guess. Like I just don't want those vibes, because I feel like once I get to that point, like if I ever got to that point of having like people being, oh, it's like a hunting boutique, then it's not the mission anymore. You know what I mean?
So what I would say is I don't get the vibe that you'll ever be boutique-y just because of the way that you set your stuff up. It's still masculine.
Okay.
And so you were spot on talking about what you put on your shirts, how you do things, and location is the biggest thing. So I probably wouldn't put something in like the Quilted Bear, or I don't know what you guys have. That's ours is called Locals, like one of those where people can buy spots in a store, right, with a bunch of boutique stuff. You're going to be very particular that if you put your stuff in a local store, it's going to be more of a manly type thing, right? When you go to events, it's going to be more like manly type events, right? Hunting expos, things like that. So I think it's more going to be in the audience you attract more than it is the actual like what you put off, because your brand is not boutique-y whatsoever. But also to attract the women are like, they are going to have more of that feminine vibe, but that's just going to come off on like the things that you create. So like the stuff you showed me, right? It's like there's still stuff about them that is, because it's not like this blingy, like, you know what I mean? It's still very masculine, feminine. I don't think you'll have the issue. I would say watch for location. It's going to be in where you put things and how you market things. But as of right now, I wouldn't even have a worry about that currently, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Just don't ever like go put yourself in like a local rock shop or something, right? Like that just wouldn't fit the vibe of really what you're going. It's more so, where can I put my stuff where the men are shopping? And as the men are shopping, women are like, oh wow, there's actually something for me here too. That's more of the vibe you're going for. Still target it to men, but most men have women. So if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So I love that. And then you said I'm getting my plan down for the year as far as products. Since I'm smooth, my VA might have time for more to add. What things can I have her do? So the thing that I would have your VA do, she's the one that can track the sales, any new sales and who it came in from, right? Sales is big. I would say it depends if you want to get rid of social media or if you want to do social media yourself. But I'll just make a list of I'm just going to share everything my VAs do, and then you just kind of take what you want from that. So Whitney, she's my admin person. So I separate people. I don't ever give people multiple jobs in the same category. Whitney organizes my Google Drive, pulls all of my reports that my bookkeeper does, gives me just new sales that happen every week. And so that it helps me track like Kelly's stuff. She does all my contracts. She does all of my speaking to like event stuff. If there's a hotel person that needs to be booked or paid, she pays my bill, like my business bills. So she's like my admin, right? She keeps me check marked too. She books all of my client stuff, things like that. Yours is going to be a little bit different, but like you could have a VA find you vendor events, get you registered for vendor events, get paid for the vendor events, tell you how much product and merchandise you're going to need, order your product and merchandise, could manage your money flow, right? Of like where things are going. So you know exactly what category things are at if you want to. And then on the other hand, Heidi, she does like my Facebook events, my Facebook posts, my newsletters. She does any follow-ups. She does little sales, not a ton of sales, but if they're just through Messenger or something. She does all my graphics, right? Packaging, workbooks, PDFs, like, so yours is going to be a little bit different, but I would just say, what are the things that take up so much time that I don't want to be doing, right? Whether that's newsletters, whether that's, I don't know, maybe if you eventually start a podcast, right? They could edit a podcast type thing. But I would say the biggest thing for you is going to be getting organized and reports and numbers and really how, same as Cassie, right? How should money be flowing in and out? Knowing at this point, I'll have them always automatically reorder merchandise at this point. Why? Because then you don't make the decision, somebody else is, and you just automatically know it's coming out, right? And so you have to prepare for it. Any updated on cover photos or new lead gens that are coming in, helping create a marketing plan, right? Like you would almost benefit of having someone be like a project manager, like keeping your visionary in check with milestones is probably like something I would suggest. And I think too, your most income comes from events. I would make someone hold you accountable to make sure vendor events are happening, especially right now, 'tis the season, is what I would say. So yeah, I would say that's where I would begin with a VA. Just take whatever kind of flows from those things. But I think tracking your salespeople, also setting up reoccurring meetings, right? They could manage the meeting too if you wanted them to, if you didn't want to be the one to babysit, right? So those are kind of the places I would start with it. Does that help?
Yeah, with that, a question kind of came up. So the staff members that I have, I added a bunch of local ones for the reason of like vendors and promoting retreats and events that I do around here. If there was like someone that kind of started just jumping out, being really good at like that local stuff, could I just maybe hire them as like the local project manager? Mm-hmm. Is that like a good idea once it gets to that point?
I would do, and how I would pay them is they make 10% of whatever they bring in from what they do. So then their work efforts are based off of how many people they brought in, how many sales they bring in, and how. So when I bring an assistant to like my events, like I pay based off of how well we all do, right? So they make a percentage of anything I sell, but also that means they want more people at the event. They want more people there, right? And so they want to make sure they're following up at the event, doing the things. So the more that you can pay commission based, the better, as far as that goes. Now, obviously like a VA or something like that, it's going to be a little bit different. But for something like that, I would say they get paid based off of the amount of sales that they make per vendor event, right? But you'll also pay for them to be a vendor, right? So you pay for the vendor, you pay for the merchandise, all this stuff they need, but at the end of the day, like they're getting paid a percentage of what that looks like.
Okay, yeah.
So I love that. And then it costs you nothing essentially to have that. And now you could have multiple people doing that. I probably wouldn't have a lot of local people though, because then it creates a lot of competition. I'd have 1 or 2 people just like, and then if they do good, keep like supporting them. If they don't, then hire someone else. But
Okay.
great question. Okay. Any other questions? Any other questions or thoughts? Let me go to the
Can I ask you a question about your list of like things for VAs too? Because
Yeah.
I'm in the same. Would it be weird? Like I pay for my accountant to meet with her once a month and I never get around to do it. I like pay for it and never use it. Would it be weird to hire somebody to just like part of it is like you meet with my accountant and tell me where she says I need to be at?
Yeah, no, I totally think that's fine. Or even like what you could do too is have them book the appointment with you.
Oh,
Then
yeah.
you have to show up. But yeah, they could totally meet
Yeah.
with the accountant too.
Half of it is just booking it really is the issue.
Yeah. So I do that all the time. Like, so I'm really bad at remembering the pay invoices. Like I'm just so bad at it. So I just will tell, like, I literally just like have like Whitney has my card information and I'll say, hey, will you go pay this hotel? Or hey, will you go pay the bookkeeper? Will you go pay this person? And so for me, I do that a lot with her. Same thing with running people's payments. Like I've tried putting it in my schedule. I've tried everything. So anything that has to do with my memory, that's actually why I initially hired a VA, was for them to just remind me and also to tell me things that I'm not recognizing are happening, right? So that's why I'm revamping my entire website, is because, as you guys know, there's like a site for Finance Your Destiny, a site for Building Your Destiny. Like it's just like, and then everyone gets confused on what's where. So they're like, we just need to have one combined thing, right? But I'm not the one that deals with those questions. I would not think of that. So like, I actually do it more for the input and just being my memory person. I won't remember to give people a contract. I won't remember to, and so all of the tedious stuff like that, I like to hire out. So yeah.
Thank you. It's nice to know I'm not the only one that like can't remember things and is in charge of things.
Exactly. Yeah. So like for same thing with like all your appointments, right? Like making sure all the appointments are booked. Do they have the waivers signed before they even get there, right? Are they getting a reminder text? Like that's all that customer service stuff for you. And that will up your game on how you show up too and there's apps for it and I'm sure you have a system, but just someone making sure it's always running smoothly, that everything's up to date, right? That
I don't have a system. I literally do it manually all by myself, texting people every day.
Yeah, no. So so what I would say is find an app for that, or that's something an assistant can do. And that's going to make your customers a lot more happy to have that flow, right? You can keep pen and papering it, but then what do you do with those? You shove them somewhere that you maybe will never find again if you're like me. And then you have to keep things for years and years and years. So it's just, for me, even though I hate filling stuff out electronically, I get why people do it, because it really is the best way to save everything. So I love that. Yes, Kristen, you have a question.
Hi, can you hear me okay? I'm in my car.
Yes.
Okay, good. So as you know, I signed a client yesterday, got payment. I need to send her a contract, and I have like a really old contract that I was using before, but I feel like I really need to update it. What like elements do you think are really important to have in there?
That's a great question. So obviously I'm not a lawyer, but you're my friend, so I will tell you what I do. But so for me, what's really, so what I've learned before I hired a lawyer to do my contract, which by the way, you guys, I have a really good lawyer that's like, that's all he does. And so it's not, you don't have to pay like thousands of dollars. It's just like, he whips out a contract, you pay a little bit of money, and they're done for you. But one thing I learned from when I was doing them myself and I sent him stuff, he's like, well, your contracts aren't really contracts, because for it to be a contract, that has to be what's your promise to them and what's like their liability to me, right? Or what's their promise to me, essentially. And so a lot of times people make contracts just so I'm not liable, I'm not liable, I'm not liable. But you have to really think about, okay, well then what am I promising them? So what are you giving them, but what are they expected in return? So remembering those two parts is like most important in my opinion. And then refund policy is always like, is there one, is there not one, what does that look like? What else do we put in my contract? So obviously what they get, if there's a payment schedule, I like to put like purchase agreement on there with their card information, when everything will be ran automatically. Cancellations, like if they don't show up for their appointments, what's the policy for that? That's super important. If you know, not that I know why this is in there because I'm not a lawyer, but I find in every contract it tends to say if you're going to sue me, then you're going to sue me in my state. So that's really big and important. Also, I like to put in there, like if I subcontract anything out, right, that I'm not reliable for like whatever I'm subcontracting out, right? So like if I hire out a website for somebody, right, I'm not liable for what that website does. Obviously results, like they need to be responsible for their own results, liability purpose wise, but yeah, so those are kind of like, for me, it's what's my promise to them, what's their promise to me, what do they get, what are the timelines on there, and what's the refund policy. And obviously like liability, you're not liable for, like, they're not going to sue you if everything goes wrong, right? So especially, yeah, like so I would start there is what I would say. And then I'll re-look through mine too, and I'll box through you if I think of anything else that's in mine. But I would say that's the biggest thing.
Cool. Thank you so much.
Yes, yes. If you have Margaret for a VA, she can pre-plan texts for you. Yeah, yeah, Margaret. I haven't used Margaret, but a lot of people have been raving about her. So definitely an option to interview too, Cassie, as far as that goes. Any other thoughts or questions? These are great questions today, by the way. Let me make sure, like sometimes I think people think I'm live and I'm not really. I mean, I'm live, but I'm on Zoom. So sometimes people go post questions on the live, but nope, I don't see any. So, okay, last chance before we hop off. Any thoughts, questions, concerns, goals? I will say, Kristen, I'll push you a little bit. The best time to sell is after you've already just sold. Especially if like you've kind of been in creation mode, like really just like really creating so much. So now that you're kind of like, I'm stepping into this, right? Of like just full on, is a really good time to just like post some sort of sales thing, post something like sales energy. When it starts rolling, it starts rolling. And so not that you want to be like super swamped or busy, but it is a good time to, or even just like keep up with marketing your podcast or whatever it is that you're looking for. Best time to sell is after you've sold.
That's really good advice, because I actually like had a little bit of a panic yesterday where I was like, now what? And then, you know, just that fear of doing it again, but like, that's really good advice. So thanks.
Yeah, I would push yourself to just anything, right? It doesn't even matter what it is. I don't even care if it's like a $10 something, like a PDF or whatever. Like I always say, like the best time to sell is after you've sold. And it's funny, my business kind of runs like that all of the time. Like we'll go where there's like nothing, and then it's like boom, all of a sudden it's everywhere. And then it's like nothing. And I don't actually think it's necessarily strategy. I think it's mindset. I think it's when my team sells, they're amped up. So they like work a little harder. I feel like when it's been dead for a while, it gets a little like, just kind of hoeing around, like the sells. So I think, yeah, good time to sell is after you've already sold. Okay.
Cool, thank you.
Any other thoughts or questions before we hop off? You guys are awesome. Let me just double check the live one more time. So I'll make sure I don't miss anything. And then if anything else comes up, for those of you in group coaching, I'll see you in group coaching. If you have any more questions, please don't hesitate to ask. Really sit down and like, if a lot of you are kind of, it sounds like a common theme right now of like, okay, now what, right? Like here's like, now what? Now is a good time if you feel like you've just came out of kind of this, like for Cassie, it's been like this hustle stage, right? For Kristen, it's been like this creation stage. And same with McKendry, like she's been really big in creation mode too. I would say really ask yourself now, like, what is the next vision, right? What is the next, not necessarily the next thing you have to chase, but what is the next timeline? Because sometimes when we're sitting in this space of stuck energy of like, okay, now what? It's just lack of clarity of what's next. And so create the story of what the next possibility is and what that looks like. I want to get to the point where I have a storefront. So yeah, I would say give yourself a timeline. What is the timeline of that storefront? How much is it going to cost? Like Cassie was saying, where does her credit need to be? What are the steps? Who does she need to talk to? And start just slowly making your path to that direction, right? It's kind of like with me with like, for so long, I'm like, I've been wanting real estate. And it's like, oh, I feel so stuck because I didn't know how, I don't know why, right? I start asking questions, I start diving here, and then this shows up, and then this shows up, and I still don't know what the hell I'm doing, right? But it's like, I'm just taking it one day at a time. Thursday, I have to talk to my tax guy, and then I'll know, then I can send that stuff to like the loan person and then know how much I actually qualify for, and then start having, and sometimes we get so intimidated by like, well, like, what if it just doesn't work? Or what if the numbers just never add up? Well, at least you know, right? At least you know where you're at and what you need to do. And so I've super had to learn day by day because I just envision so much. Yeah. So really have a vision, but overall, what are the daily milestones to get you the answers to the things you don't know? Because when you start to go to this level that you're all at, you don't know what's next. You don't know how to get to the next thing because you've never done it. So you just have to start asking yourself, what are the questions that I need to start asking, and the small steps to actually start opening up that manifestation of things to drop in, or people to drop in, or things to just naturally align. But you have to start making a little effort towards it to even know what the questions may be. There's been a building I've been hesitant on asking about. I'm going to call today. Yeah. So got to know what it is, how to make it work. And then you know how the numbers have to align and what needs to happen. So great. Okay. If you guys have anything else, let me know. Just interrupt me real fast, but we're going to hop off. If anything else comes up, let me know, and I will talk to you guys later.